What's going on, Cancer? I salute the divinity in you, and welcome to the Chariot Friends. Justin here. How are you feeling? I'll tell you what. When I'm recording this, the sun has just freshly entered into Sagittarius, and I'm already feeling like 1,000 times better. I feel more pleasant, rejuvenated, but also ready to move spirit in a very practical way, to move this heat in a very practical way, because the moon's in Virgo. And this would be great for that, to take anything that you've learned during this Scorpio season and how do you want this energy? What are some things that you're like, you know what, okay, I like this feeling. I want to be here. Or, it's been a while and I want to be here. This is, I feel like, a really great energy to help get things in order, help think about some things to let go of as well, considering that we're getting into the last quarter phase as well, which we'll talk about all that in a moment. But before we jump into that, if you're new here, again, welcome. My name is Justin, and know that when you're coming across this video, you're in sync with the moon, and she loves that. And this is also a place for if you happen to have Cancer in your placement, Sun, Moon, Rising, maybe Mercury, wherever. This one's for you. Or if you just want to kick it with Cancer, we love that. Depends. And I do tarot card spreads based off this lovely luminary, the good old moon. And I'll talk about what sign she's in, what phase she's in, when she's going to avoid, of course, just all of those lunar shenanigans. And just, yeah, even my movements feel just more animated. I'm with it. And just so you're aware, this is a general reading, not a one-to-one. So take what fits into your story, discard the rest, and everything will be dope, Cancer. Now, let's jump into it while the energy's hot. And I'm going to shuffle your cards here. And depending on when you're watching this, Happy Venus Day. Venus is associated with Fridays, and what a lovely day for Venus to represent. This is always a great day. Oh, absolutely. Thanks, Spirit. Okay. But this is, I like to think of it a day as to restore any sort of harmony into your life. That will be one way of working with the Venus day. So this could be a great day for getting out in nature. Go appreciate the beauty of life. Go to maybe a movie. Go read a nice book. Maybe have a nice conversation with maybe some friends that you haven't seen in a while, or maybe some friends you just saw yesterday, but you love them so much, let's keep this party going. But whatever this is, I feel like bringing that, anything that's going to get you in that kind of feel good, attractive energy, so that you can stay inspired for when you're just kind of by yourself and needing to find motivation. You can kind of call on those times like, you know what, I do this thing so that I can keep having this sort of thing happen. And I'm just thinking with that just because of Venus being in Capricorn as well. I kind of like when Venus in Capricorn. I've been listening to this podcast here recently. It's been talking about this relationship with Venus and Saturn that I've come to really enjoy. So, yeah, that's just one thing to think about with Venus Day. And one thing I like to just personally think about too during these times is just like, how am I working with my Venus? Where is Venus transiting for me right now? She's actually going through my 6th house right now, and I just got done with the lunar return that was dealing with 6th house things, and I could have done that better. I could have done a lot better. But that's the great thing, again, that we're at this last quarter phase here. You know what? I think that's all the thing I want to talk about Venus. Let's get into the lunar shenanigans so I can get to this last quarter thing. Because on the 22nd, again, depending on when you're watching this, the 22nd of November, the moon is going to enter into Virgo at about 3:01 p.m., and that's Pacific time. And before I get into the chart, because I got a lovely chart for you, when you think about Virgo, Virgo they're ruled by Mercury, and that's the sign that Mercury is dignified and exalted in. So Mercury's high functioning in Virgo. But right now Mercury is in Sagittarius. And so there's this square that's going on. There's this energy of, we got all this energy, but maybe we're not sure where to go. We're feeling this lit up now with this heat. We got Mars there, who's going to be going back to water here soon. So that might be a little interesting. But I'll say it, like weird was the word that kind of came to my mind. Just like, when you have that inspiration, but you're not sure what to do with it, almost like feeling like you're kind of throwing things at a wall to see what sticks. And I think that with this, the nice thing about Virgo is that it's up for a challenge. It's good at working with the things of the material world, considering that it is an earth sign. It's receptive in nature. It's feminine, so it receives this whatever situation we're needing to adjust, where we're needing to move, this weirdness, and it's just like, okay, the flow normally feels like this. What are some extra things maybe that I need to do? What are some things that I need to? This is a time to really be flexible, I feel, over these next couple of days while this moon. I think that would be a really constructive way of working with this point of the moon while she's in Virgo. And I think that you can get a lot of good personal insights as far as like if something has been going a certain type of way, you've been looking for adjustment, there could be this sort of like window period where you're just like, oh, okay, that's the kind of timeline I want to jump into. If that makes sense. But ultimately, I like a good moon in Virgo because I do feel like the moon could do well in an earth sign, minus Capricorn where she has to push a little bit more. But even then, she can get some good results in Capricorn. But I think in Virgo, I think the moon can, Virgo often gets tied with this energy of service, but I feel like really of being service to yourself. In order to be there for others, you have to be able to be there for you, and take care of your needs. But let's get into the chart here because the first quarter is going to be happening a little later that day. Yes, on the 22nd. Let me adjust this mic a little bit. But it's going to be happening on the 22nd at about 5:28 p.m. And again, 5:20, and that's Pacific time. And it's going to be happening at a pretty early degree. It's like shortly after the moon enters there. What, about 2 hours later? Yeah. So, got the lovely moon here at 1 degree 14 minutes of Virgo, and the sun's at the same degree but in Sagittarius. And the squares, or the last quarter, is when the sun and the moon are in that second square. So just like in the first quarter where there's kind of this call to action, I like to think of this maybe as one way as a call for just like maybe doing some readjustment during this period of time. Or this could even be a great time of celebration. You implemented this thing, you tried something, so you put out an application and hey, you got the job you're looking for, or you were thinking about moving to a new apartment and bam, things came through. You had the money saved up, you took the time. It's not like it just like was. Maybe it was like one part magic, but the other parts was your work that you were putting into this thing. And one thing that I was noticing, that made me kind of think about like Mercury and the Magician. It's just that we also have just like a lot of planets in mutable signs right now. Saturn's in Pisces, Jupiter's in Gemini, the moon in Virgo, sun in Sag, just freshly entered Sag. So minus like Mars and Venus, this is why I said this is a time to be very open to adjustment during this period of time. And what I think too, really kind of paying attention to this Venus energy, because Venus I do think can do very well in Capricorn, where it's a feminine sign, which Venus is about, but the difference here is like it's initiating as opposed to, and Venus is capable of being an initiator. One of her signs is Libra, which is a cardinal sign. So I think that what I'm trying to get at is if you're trying to make a pivot, if you're trying to make some sort of adjustment, you're wanting to attract a certain thing to establish this sense of harmony in whatever part of life you're going to, you can do that with Venus, and then that Mars energy will hold that focus with him being in Leo. And that might be a nice focus to have before Mars starts going into retrograde, and then the energy starts to just kind of slow, because Mars starts to Mars just kind of really pumps the brakes. There's usually not a big slow up, or it's like 1 minute Mars is fine and then he's retrograde. So it's interesting to watch Mars in a like a, what's the word I'm looking for, like an ephemeris. So definitely check that out. But I think that's all I have for you on this chart thing. But yeah, those are just some things that I would think about, just kind of reflect on over these next couple of days, as far as like how you've been moving and how you want to continue to move, and for wanting to pivot things, or for wanting to keep staying the course of something. Because that's the kind of last quarter I think things too. It could either be like, okay, yeah, things are going great, let me continue on with this and kind of see how this is going to carry over into the next portion of my life. or it's just like, you know what, I'm gonna have to, maybe I was going a little over ambitious. And that's fine, let's just spread it out a little bit. So, and the one thing I wanted to reflect on too before we get to the tarot is the Sabian symbol for this. And this is phase 154 of Virgo. And this is the imagery that kind of pops up for this, well, not kind of, the imagery for this is a large white cross dominates the landscape. And the keynote for this is the wisdom and compassion which only the experience of suffering and isolation can bring. Very 12th house types of things. And you know, when I picture that the large white cross and dominates the landscape, I think of that as just like the cross that we've all had to bear at some point. The thing, the 12th house kind of suffering, isolation things that we again, that no one is immune to. It may look differently, of course, for everyone, but there is a commonality in that this portion of life happens. And I think that it's asking to, one, when you're reflecting on those sort of past things and you're thinking about pivoting and making different moves, being kind with yourself. You're working with new information now. Back then, and maybe back then you knew the information, but we weren't feeling open to it. Then you don't have to justify that. You know, like, I'm not saying we're not, we're learning from that. You know, like, so I think that it's not let it be present in that, like, I'm moving forward from this thing, but move at it from a place of wisdom and compassion. I'm moving different because I did see where I could have done better, or I see where someone else could have done better, and I needed to make whatever steps in order to do this. But know that I feel too, this is just like a really practical thing to do during this time, is to send out as much compassion, even if you, not to say that it's a tricky place, because it's not to say where you're not just letting people just throw stuff on you and things like that, but also too, if they're just not being mindful and they're just throwing that sort of stuff about, the type of things that must be coming back, all you can do is like, wouldn't want to be you. Not until you started bringing back some blessings. So it makes me think about this quote in this one book by Florence Shinn. It's, man only dares, a person only dares use a word for healings, blessings, and to prosper. And I think that that's a fact, because otherwise it's interesting. So I think that's all I got for you there. So let's go ahead and switch over here. And if you're wanting to work more personally with me, down in the description box is a link for all the services that I provide. Edited, which I'm totally getting on. I need to really get on that. But yeah, that's down there for you. So definitely check that out. And I think that's it. So last little thing, these readings that I do, they're not gender specific readings, so apply these readings to people as they make sense for your situations. And before we jump into this thing, we're going to start the hourglass, and I'm going to ring this bell a couple times to bring in some good vibes. So adjust your volumes if you need to, all your volumes, and we'll get into this thing. All right. All right, so for your general energy of the day, appropriate. I love it. Love when things match up like this. So we have the last quarter moon, but in Mercury's other sign, in Gemini. And this is a card to clear your mind. So clear your mind for a minute. It's the last quarter moon in Gemini. But I do think that this last quarter, though, is one, I think, asking if you are kind of, if that cross is really kind of standing out in the background there, to take a moment, and why is whatever this is that's coming up for you, why is it coming up? Like, you don't necessarily have to get into it, go as comfortable as you can, but there's just something here about, you'll have a clearer mind once the thing is addressed. Let's say we've been maybe you got bills that you haven't been paying that you haven't wanted to look at, or maybe there's a conversation that's needing to be had, or maybe there's just some sort of just decision that where it feels like there's a, when we're thinking about Gemini and all this just mercurial energy, I think that the imagination sometimes can, when it's just kind of loose in the breeze like that with Gemini, can really run wild. And I think also even too with Sag being, or with Mercury being in Sag right now, I think that if you find yourself where you are just kind of conjuring up a lot of things and the mental chatter is coming up, take some time and just sit with yourself. How many you there are different breathing techniques that can be done, but you can do something as basic. I have this little mala bead here in this little handy bag. It's a little silly, but it brings it invites this sort of like invitation for fun as opposed to, or at least that's what I'm telling myself. But that way I have like 108 beads, and that way it's like I've kept track of at least 108 breaths. If I've done it once, if I've done it twice, that's 200 what 16. So look at how many breaths that I was present for, and I find like it's in that focusing on the breath, it helps the thoughts maybe not necessarily quiet the mind, but it helps the whirlwind become a more kind of breeze, so that the thoughts can kind of, they're more graspable. Let's get some, that's interesting how that lined up there, that last quarter. Let's get some tarot on this and see what's going on with the past energies. Oh, interesting. So thanks, Spirit. Okay, one more. Okay, we're getting one more. Okay. So for the past energies, you have the World and the Six of Swords here. Now, the World energy, that's Earth energy, Virgo, but this also is Saturn. But it calls to mind, and when I think about the moon in Virgo, I do think about the Hermit card. And the energy, the journey of Earth would include the Hermit, the Devil, and the... who am I forgetting? The Hermit, and Taurus, the Hierophant. And it's interesting what I'm getting. Like, the World card is not just where things are ending, but where a new beginning is getting ready to be had. But it feels like there's this, you've reached a certain level here, and now it's time for things to, whenever you level up, you take on more things here with this World card. It's very interesting what's coming through there. But I'm even getting kind of called to Saturn being in Pisces, that there's this, maybe you're putting up a barrier or something here from seeing an ending from happening. That's interesting. And maybe even a need to connect to something there, because when you get to the Six of Swords, the Six of Swords is this moving on to calmer shores. You still have maybe those thoughts and things about what ifs, could I have done this? Would have been easier to have. But it's now feels like there's this, it's like this call to action to journey to a new world here. But it maybe this is just something that has been thought about, and maybe you're wondering if you even missed a window. That's even something that comes through. But I feel like there's, where there's a will, and it's gonna sound a little cliche, but where there's a will, there's a way. But I'm even getting drawn to kind of pay attention to, as far as just like traveling, just thinking with the Six of Swords, and if you're traveling any sort of where, to make sure that you leave yourself enough time so that you can think with the clear, when you're going in a rush, we tend to, things tend to get in the way, if you will. Whereas if you give yourself enough time, that can keep you clear mind to work with other things. But let me get some tarot on this, or get a clarifier on this. this little combination of cards here. Spirit. Oh, how funny. So here's the Hermit. so we're really going to talk about this. You know, so the Hermit for me is very, very deep. And I think this is really reflecting on where you've been going up until now. It may be up until this point. Maybe that's what this past energy is coming through. Because it feels very heavily in, like, it's like the past. And I don't mean it's like necessarily caught up in the past, but it feels like a past, kind of reflected on past actions, like how were things completed? Was this the right move? And even just thinking with Virgo, it's not necessarily about, okay, necessarily what's right or wrong. It's just like, what do I need to do to adjust this thing? What do I need to do? You know, maybe the light is feeling caged right now, and there's just like, what do I need to do to set that free? But I even got this thing too of it's keeping your star, not necessarily containing your star and diminishing it, but keeping your star power to yourself. Like if you have something that you enjoy doing on the side, not letting someone step all over that or something along those lines here. Have those little places where you can you're top of the mountain with this Hermit here, that you can go and be quiet and be still and clear your mind. And maybe that could even help clear up some of this past energy here, because I've been kind of called to do a little shift with the pulls, and I'm just getting one clarifier for this. But yeah, that's interesting, what's going on here, that journey of, like I said, the journey of Earth. And so the fact that Virgo's popping up here for the moon in Virgo, it's the time to just go within and get a lot of answers there. Yeah, let's see what the present energy is looking like. Ooh, Ace of Wands. How interesting. I was actually listening to something about that today. And so the present energy with this Ace of Wands is what I think will pop up when you taking the time to clear your mind. That sense of what that could feel like. You know, where this to me feels like kind of spirit passing the torch, or spirit kind of lighting the fire when you make time to hear it. When you make time to, to really kind of meditate, maybe even ask yourself the questions that you've maybe not wanted to face, just so that it can help you clear your mind. That could be an example. And it's just like, let's just get it out the way. Okay, what do I really feel about this? And then just meditate. You don't have to do anything with it. The thing with the aces, they're just the roots of the element. So it's not even the element that has really manifested yet. It's the potentiality of it. But just because something comes up, if you don't like what's come up, we can change that. That doesn't mean that if it doesn't feel right. But there's something here that your path and the thing that you're willing to take, but something here maybe from this past energy is keeping, it's almost like it's gotten you like not quite sure what, like there's too many potential, because the Ace of Wands is that primordial fire, that kind of like that almost like Big Bang energy, that first splint, that spark of life that contains everything in it. And that's what I was even feeling when I was talking about that Mars energy, where it might be nice to have something you're focusing on, so that you're not trying to grasp. It's easy to grasp onto something now, as opposed to, and I think, and not to say it's impossible, but something about the retrograde energy with Mars going back into his fall, there's just a chances of maybe things just murking up the waters is what I'm getting. So while the inspiration is there, work with that to the best of your capacities, just to help keep Again, keep the mind clear. But let's get a clarifier on this. Oh, interesting. Okay. Thank you, Spirit. So you got the Emperor in reverse here. And so the Emperor, that's Aries energy. But what I see with this Emperor is the need to be your authority, to not necessarily look. It's good to ask advice for things, but no one can make you do anything. And that applies to if this is someone in your life where if if they're not you do the things, you say the things, and they're the emperor still stays sitting on his head wondering why everything's upside down. You just gotta let the emperor be upside down sometimes. Let them reflect and channel your energy elsewhere, because then that could even be a motivator possibly. This could also be where you lose your dome, like the stability that the emperor brings. Being like the number 4, you picture like a rectangle. Well, maybe a square is what I was really going for. But apparently, I'm picturing working with the cars. We think about rectangles, but stable bases. That 4 gives that security. And something here, if the mind's not clear, then the foundation is rocky. It's like the emperor is sitting on pillows as opposed to a chair. It's even more so just picturing like a sand castle chair as opposed to a sturdy chair, a sturdy foundation, something where he can really kind of put his feet down. And that might be something too, maybe to help clear your mind, just to get grounded. Go outside, get your feet in the dirt, just take a minute, just breathe the air, just little rituals. Little bits go a long way. All right, let's see what the future energy is looking like. Well, that's interesting with the Six of Swords. That's one of Mercury's cards. That's Mercury in Aquarius. And that's that, when the mind... I like Mercury in Aquarius, but I think the trickiness with fixed signs, being someone with a lot of fixed energy in their chart, is where it can be something that's very focused. It can also be something that can be hard to change and to get out of that focus once you get so into something. And that's been where I've noticed in my life. There's been, like, for example, like working out, that's usually one I try. Like I've only noticed maybe one instance where I've been like really in the dumps where I didn't work out, but I knew there was something going on, more or less. And so, but that's something that's persisted. But I'm just getting with that fixed air, just things, maybe time to kind of brush up or freshen up a way of thinking here. But for your future energy, you got the 7 of Wands. And this to me is... it's Mars in Leo. Mars is in Leo. And so this is the time to get on the offense when it comes to this. There you can, and I think even with this Emperor, that might be something too, where it's just like you're trying to maybe sit in a yoga pose, or maybe just trying to do yoga and wonder like, why is this not helping me clear my head? Then maybe being upside down, Emperor, may not be the thing for you. Maybe going out for a walk might be the thing for you. Maybe doing some cooking, maybe like starting to do some like meal prep, maybe doing some flower arrangement, maybe doing some drawing, maybe listening to some music, whatever it is. But find something that moves you. If this is something that's just, and I don't even think like if you've just been in a fog, but just in general to kind of help clear your mind, to make sure that we're I'm even getting that going from like an impulsive place where you're, because the Seven of Wands can maybe be combative, can maybe even see enemies where there aren't any. And because that Mars in Leo, that's like that solar warrior. I really like that imagery for Mars. And sometimes I think maybe with Mars that even though it's the sun energy, he can maybe think that his rights, his cause is coming from a just place when really purity, like it's getting to this where things again are getting in question. So, but I feel like there's this need to combat maybe just like the mental chatter. Find ways, especially if it gets where it's not constructive. Notice when your mind is where it wanders to and why it wanders there. And why it may keep you trapped. Thanks, Spirit. Got Jupiter and Gemini here. It's the Eight of Swords. And that's where Jupiter's in his detriment right now, in this mutable sign here, this mutable soup. But it's not like it's all in her head. Right now it's all in her head. She's making something bigger than maybe it needs to be. And it's not to say that it's not a thing, because sometimes I think too, just thinking about that, back to that Sabian symbol imagery, where what we may think of as a problem may not be a problem to someone else. They might have an easy solution for that, but then in turn you tell them their problems, and then you're just like, what? And so it's like it's interesting, the things that we can feel, or that we can feel bound by, or think that we're bound by, and can see all the many ways that this thing is trying to, just things are getting in our way. But now this future energy is really trying to tone things down a little bit. First you started with a couple majors and a minor, and we got to a major and a minor, and now we're just a couple minor cards here. And it's like, let's cool it in the future for a little bit. Let's get in our heads, or maybe get trapped in our heads, maybe, and not even trapped, just getting in the head in a different type of way, in an intentional type of way, one that doesn't require to be so combative, to where you don't feel like you have to be so on all the time. Let's get some advice from good old Mercury. Oh, how lovely. Look at that. So you have the Ten of Cups here. And let's switch back over. Oh, you know what? No, I guess I'll keep it down here because I'm going to clarify real quick. But not yet. We're almost going to switch over. But with the Ten of Cups, for your advice from Mercury, we're just doing things differently. This is that dream. But I think when I was talking about finding that focus with Venus, that attracting that thing that you're wanting, and that Mars being able to sustain that, I think that this Ten of Cups here is to not let the chase, the exact vision of it. You know how it's like when if you've ever, let's say for example, you see a picture, and you're like, you see it, and it's like, yeah, I could draw that. And then you go to draw it, and it doesn't look anything like it. Or maybe the opposite end. Maybe it exceeds what you were thinking. But this Ten of Cups is giving me this feeling fulfilled in something regardless. Clear your mind and remembering why you started something in the first place. Whether this be a relationship, whether this be a creative project, joining a community, whatever this is. And that's what this Ten of Cups is giving me, this. And I'm also getting to with that clear your mind. It's like, what do you want? What do you want to feel? And then when you've gotten that, what are the things that are getting in your way? And not but it's like it's coming at them in a different type. Instead of looking at them as problems, looking at them as, okay, these if I solve these things, these will give me solutions to get to here. Is there something about this? We're playing with the air a little bit to get the energy moving the way that we want to towards this 10 of cups. Let me get a clarifier with that. Let's see what's going on with that. That's kind of a very mercurial message. Okay. Thanks, man. So, the 10 of Cups is clarified by the 8 of Cups here. And I'm looking at the moon, the moon in this. It's just the way that she's kind of looking at this is kind of clear your mind. It's just like, at first I was getting this sort of like sort of energy, but there's still like a compassion there too, of course. Just like, how do I want to put this? Like, it's something that's not necessarily getting in the way from a dream, but it's like maybe you thought you wanted something, but it's like how you've wanted to get to it is maybe gotten skewed, and so now there's a need to shift up here, or shift things up a little bit. Let me get one more on that because I didn't quite feel right, and then let me see if I got anything else that I can. Okay, so you also got the 7 of Cups in reverse here. In this to me, and maybe that's what this is. Okay, so it's okay, and I think we're gonna switch back over, because it's giving me this thing of now we're seeing something when we're seeing something clearly, like as far as like the goal, the vision, where you've gotten off track, or where you want to continue. There's something here that, yeah, it's giving me, it's like, you've had to move on from something. We got to move somewhere, and it almost even seems like that 7 of Cups there's limited. It's like at first there were multiple ways of getting out of this thing, but now there are fewer, and now we're having to pick one as opposed to the 8. That's very interesting, or like it feels like that something is. Yeah, something is changing, and I think I'm gonna move out of that. Something to something to meditate on, but it's there's a lot of feelings behind it, and I think that in order to work through all of that, there's gonna need to be that kind of clear space to. And maybe it kind of felt like what I was doing, just kind of like grabbing at water and just letting it flow, and just sort of like, hmm. And there are going to be some, like, you can. It's interesting when you try to cling to feelings, and when you can feel them just kind of move on. I remember feeling that once when the moon was in Cancer, and then the moon went in. I noticed I wasn't even looking at the time, but I remember feeling a lot lighter. I was really ruminating, really getting deep down into something, and then it just went away. And then I was like, I felt better, but also it's just like, but I felt like I was getting a breakthrough too. And that's what this 10 of Cups kind of feels like. And sometimes you just gotta let it wash away. You try to go grasp at it and just let it wash away. Like it'll come back if it needs to. But I'm gonna leave that there. But if you like that, if anything resonated with you, give it a thumbs up. And share this thing if you know someone who can get a nuggets of wisdom out of this. Are we gonna do my thumbs up thing? There we go. And subscribe there, you emperor. Hit that bell button, get notified when I release videos each day. And then last little bit, if you want to come over to my other channel, Alchemist 8. Don't even think about it. Just come on over and clear your mind. I do weekly videos talking about the celestial weather and what's going on, how to constructively work with those energies. So definitely check that out. And all that housekeeping, I already said, it's down this guy. I got to still working on that one. Let me get you surprise card of cards here so I can get you out of here. Oh, look at this. I really enjoyed this card. Thanks, Spirit. Look at those fours, 44. Got the growth card here. It's the toadstools card. And I really do enjoy this card. Like, it's very, very clear. You know, there's this, thinking about your mushrooms, they have such a complex, and you know, there's such a way of connection with Earth and how they communicate. And I think that there's this growth in the clearing of your mind to kind of make space for things to assimilate, disseminate, whatever word I'm looking for. But and I'm even getting this thing of just like, don't overthink the growing process. Sometimes you just gotta let some things grow. I mean, it's like sometimes something needs to grow in order for you to know what to prune away, even possibly here. And I'm even getting something too where even if there's this some growth that's happening, you can like cut around something when you're like work. You know, if you're getting some produce and you go to pick out one and you happen to miss a spot, but the thing itself is perfect. But it's just like this one little spot. You just kind of take a knife and you don't throw the whole pepper away. You just kind of, well, maybe you do. This is a judgment-free zone, and it's the judgment-free zone because I just cut it off. Because it's just like, or you know, when you're eating an apple, we're not gonna throw the whole apple out just because there's like a little bruise or something along those lines. You're just like, oh, shink, can't chew on. For some people, just go ham, just go for it. But I feel like it's some like not letting a thing ruin a whole apple. Even that's the kind of imagery that I was getting. That like something doesn't need to be stained. You can remove that part, and then some new growth will come into that as well. It's very specific. But that's all I got for you there. So until next time, keep raising that consciousness and keep eyes on that moon. And I will catch you on the next one. Oh, when we catch you. Moon Day.